Double Up. I'm Shan and Rach.
And I'm Rachel Tilley, and we're here to serve as the voice of women's surfing.
On this week's episode, we talked to two photographers, Cait Miers and Ryder, who have forged their own paths in the surf industry. The two recently worked together for the first time in Margaret River, which is also the first time two women have covered a WSL event together.
Yeah, Shannon, it was amazing getting to talk to both Cait and B at the same time. Just off the back, this is something that we have talked about before, you and I, of really wanting to have conversations highlighting women in the surf industry, but touching the surf industry in all different ways. As we've talked, you come from your commentary experience. Obviously, we've talked to plenty of surfers, but here's another touch point to the surf industry in photography. And B and Cait are two of the best women photographers that we have in the industry. So it was really great to hear them, one, talk about their career as a whole.
Yeah.
Talk about their experience that they have up until this point, and then like right off the back of them working together in Margaret River.
Yeah, Rachel, I had such a good time talking to them both. You and I have both been on the ground working with them, at multiple events across our careers, which is really fun. But we haven't had this kind of dialogue before, even just getting to know their backgrounds of how they got into photography in the first place and then into surf photography. And
yeah,
I don't know, it was really cool to hear like the differences between, Cait growing up in a full surf town, growing up in that Victoria, Torquay area where it's just like surf is life. And then for B coming from Portugal and just being in a world that's completely outside of there's obviously heaps of surf in Portugal, but B wasn't a surfer growing up.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to hear her take on how she kind of wanted to get involved in the surf industry, when her even journey to like riding a surfboard was. And the other thing that I think is so interesting, and I hope the audience picks up on this as well, is that, Rach and I often in our conversation on the podcast, we have shared a lot of our experiences, which have been a lot of positive experiences in our roles within the surf industry, but a lot of negative experiences. And I think it's due in part to the amount of time that we have spent in this industry. It's been, 10 to 15 years worth of stories gathered between the two of us. And a lot of that has a negative reflection on our industry. For Cait, she's got some similar experiences as well. I know because she's been in the industry for a long time. But for B, she's a little bit younger. She's newer to the industry out of any one of us. And her experience coming into it has actually been really positive. And I just found that to be the best takeaway because it shows, hopefully, that it's not just her, but that there's maybe that shift and that change is starting to come overall within the surfing industry, photography industry, etc., where that newer generation walking into things is going to be walking into a healthier system than what you and I maybe grew up with.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I think for our listeners taking that away and otherwise as well, okay, quick tangent, but when I used to work in partnerships at WSL, I used to lead school tours. Like I would be in contact with local schools and have like high schoolers come to the event site, and I'd give them a tour into every single part of the event site: the commentary booth, the VIP, the athlete center, the physio center, the back offices where we would work, the judging towers, everything. And through that, I really liked to just show these kids that there are so many touch points that make this industry what it is. It doesn't, if you're so passionate about surfing, but you don't see a competitive career, in your future, there are so many other opportunities and pursuits you can follow. And I think these two women are great examples of how both of them have had very different paths, but have made such a successful and amazing career in photography. And for any of our listeners, especially the young ones who are maybe thinking similarly and maybe do have a passion for photography, these women are really great inspirations to look towards in order to find that within yourself. So I hope you guys enjoy the interview.
Let's listen. Well, thank you so much. Today on the Double Up, we have two special guests, both photographers, surf photographers, and have been working at the highest level and across just so many different spaces. We've got Cait Miers and Beatrice Ryder, B, joining us together. Now, Rachel and I had the idea that we wanted to get you guys on specifically together right now because you've just finished working at the Margaret River Pro together, which was the first time ever that the WSL has had 2 female photographers hired on the same team, where there's always 2 photographers, but it's typically like a 1 guy, 1 girl situation or a couple of guys. And so we thought it was so awesome that you guys got to work together. And also, like, you've been longtime friends anyways. We just wanted to kind of tap into a different side of surfing than what Rach and I typically get to chat to, which is the surfers themselves. So thanks so much for joining us here. And yeah, how was the time in Margaret River? I guess let's just start there.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It was amazing, wasn't it, B? We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it was the best event I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I was thinking about this before, and I think what made it so special, like, B and I were staying together as well, and we hadn't spent a whole lot of time with each other before this event. And so we just got along like a house on fire, and it made it, you know, I guess being in a team and shooting, it's so important to be able to we get along with everyone. But yeah, I felt really supported with B there, and I'm hope that she felt supported with me there as well.
Yeah, we were like
so
a married couple.
Yeah,
basically.
We were like reading each other's minds. I'm like, yep, you got this. Yep.
Yeah, we're like,
yeah. It was cool.
Well, for our listeners, real quick, do you think you guys could explain what a setup looks like when you are the 2 hired photographers for the event? What does that look like in terms of sharing responsibility, expectations, and all of that?
Yeah. B?
One of you? Whoever.
Yeah, I guess... Technically, we only need to like work and be on work mode and work as a team when we're at the event, which is technically like in the 2-week window time. Like, it's not a lot, but like I feel like it's the everyday stuff, like getting ready in the morning and like drive there, have a plan for the day if we're on and if we're off, all that. Like, it went really smoothly. It goes smoothly if you work with someone you know. If you work with someone you don't know, it gets like a bit of extra stressful. And like the little things. So we get there in the morning. We have to make a plan for all the scenarios it could happen, like going on, being off, shooting water, not shooting water, all these things, and then like connect and set up and all that. And we were actually even sharing a camera and a lens. So, we were like a married couple, really.
Yeah.
It was like sharing responsibilities was really easy and like super smooth. Usually it's not that smooth unless you work, like I've worked with Aaron a bunch of times. So I feel like it's smooth with him, working with him as well. But very often it's not that smooth. And so it just makes everything a bit harder and more stressful, I guess. So this time
we're pretty much, sorry.
Yeah, you go.
No, we're pretty much like have to have an eye on action at all times. So, you know, between 2 people, it can be hard because we're shooting and then we're going back and dropping files, and there's times where we can miss things, and like we will miss things. But yeah, we had a nice little rotation going, and we had each other's backs. It was like, which most of the time in a team you do, but I don't know, it just felt extra special this time. It was like, I'd be like, I can't get there, and B's like, I got this. And like, you know, it was cool. Like, that's what we're here to do. We're one team, one dream, and one dream, one team, whatever it is. But yeah. Yeah.
That's so good. And like, you know, talking through like the literal like logistics of how it works. So you guys are switching between action and lifestyle. Is that right? I just know because Aaron talks about the things obviously all the time. But
and then also water and land.
Water. Yeah. So how does water factor into action, factoring
like,
into
how
lifestyle?
do you actually make a talk us
Is it
through
like you work
in the
hour
team
by
on
hour
the
or
morning?
like, what does it look like?
Yeah.
So we have like, you basically shoot 4 heats each.
Okay.
So it's 4 heats. We got 1 on lifestyle, 1 on action. And then, between 4 and 6 heats each usually. And then if you're shooting action, it's kind of on you to decide whether you go down in the water to shoot or you shoot from land. So that's like,
okay.
And in Margaret River, like I'm sure B can help explain this, it's really difficult to make that decision. I know,
And
B, you want to talk about the water. Yeah.
We didn't need to necessarily, and also when we don't have jet skis, we didn't necessarily need to decide if we want to do water like this, and this heat. And now, because things are a bit trickier, we kind of need to say in the morning what heats we're going to do from water. And as you can imagine, like we get there, it's like pitch black. Like how are we going to decide?
How can you predict that?
I know.
We can't even see.
And it's trickier because you have to coordinate with the water safety team to do the jet ski pickups and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like extra trickier. It's like we get there in the morning, it's like pitch black, and we're like, okay, so what do we do?
So it sounds like it might be big today. Do we want to be in the water? Do we not want to be in the water?
Basically, that's what we would do. It was like, oh, sounds big. So what we would, So we basically need to decide whether we want to do action. And also, this event's so tricky because we need to shoot from the jet ski. And the jet ski sits on the right because they always go right. But if the swell direction's a bit different or the swell's a bit big, there's so many factors that can make the decision be so hard because often we go there and we can't sit in the right spot. And because there's only one person shooting action, then you miss all the moments and you can't really do that. So it's kind of like a high pressure decision.
It is. That's probably the hardest. I think that's the hardest decision at that event. Do we get on the ski or do we not? Like, And of course, water will, everyone wants water photos. Marketing team want water photos. Like, and it always looks better from the water, but you kind of got to make that decision of whether you're going to, get, like if someone does a 10 and you're in the water, like we're probably going to miss it because we're going to be behind them and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, it's really tricky because then if you miss the 10, then everyone's like, where's the 10? You're like, oh, it's in the water. Trying to,
And for like basically for every other event, is it every other event aside from Margaret River, when you're choosing to go water or land, you're literally like in the water swimming, you've got your fins on, you're like able to position yourself down the line from the surfers, but you're physically like, head and camera just above the water. In Margaret River, due to shark protocols and things like that, you've got to be physically sitting on a jet ski the whole time. And so that just makes it more complicated because now you're also communicating to the driver on where you need to be sitting. He's looking out for waves and making sure also that he's not creating wake on the wave for the surfer. Like there's so much more to coordinate than just like being a free swimmer in the water.
Broadcast jet ski right in front of us. So it's like,
oh my gosh.
Where do we go?
We kind of get second fiddle to broadcast, which is fair enough, but it just makes it harder because, you're both in this little like spot at the right in the triangle. I swear every year it gets smaller, that little zone that we're in. I don't know how, but it's it's a bit of fun. But it's tricky. It's not an easy decision. I feel like somewhere like Snapper, it's like pumping. You go out there, you shoot, you sit in the channel, bang, like easy. Bells is relatively, I feel like that's easier as well. There's a channel you can sit in. Margs is just, it's a lot going on.
And this event, you guys had a day or 2 days at the box as well?
Morning.
Yes. Okay. And how is that? I mean, there you do have a little bit more of like a standard channel. Is that one, does that operate or like feel a little bit easier when you move over there? Like as a photographer, is that like a bit of a relief when you hear like, okay, we're going to the box? Because if it's going to the box, it's going to be pumping and maybe you're going to have more wiggle room, or is it like just as logistically difficult?
The box is like guaranteed you have a good shot. It's like no doubt you're in the right spot. No one's in front of you. The wave's like perfect.
Amazing.
Like everything's there. So guarantee good shots.
Yeah, it was almost like a relief, hey, B. It was like, or almost like, yes, like this is such a good opportunity because they hadn't run at the box for, since 2019.
Quite a few years, right?
Yeah, so it was like, I mean, logistically, it was like, I was like, oh, thank God. But then pressure of like, okay, well, this is a
Yeah.
big moment here because we're there for, it was only a couple of hours. I actually pulled it
Mm-hmm.
2 heats earlier, but yeah, everything went well.
Well, I'd love to ask that and get both your guys' response to this is when you're talking about that pressure as well. Obviously, you're two photographers hired for the entire event, and you're hired because you're both amazing photographers in your own right, and you're completely capable, right? And you guys have both done WSL events multiple times by now. This isn't your first. How do you go in with nerves, confidence? Do you still get nervous about getting the shot? Is that something that you guys both kind of have on lockdown within your own confidence levels? I don't know, like talk me through what does that look like in your mental state of getting hired for a job like this?
There you go.
I kind of like, I'm very competitive with myself. So for me, it's like, it's almost like a first event each time because I really want to make sure I get like the best shots possible kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if I know that I've done good in like, for example, Margaret River last year, like I did good in something, like I just want to get better and better within myself kind of thing. And this year was a bit disappointing because the action shots were not amazing because we didn't do jet ski as much because the swell didn't really allow us to do so.
Sure.
But yeah, it's nerve-wracking each time. And when it comes to like the finals day, especially, it's like all nerves are out and you're like, oh, I hope I don't mess this out.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, it almost feels like a first event each time. But with like, I guess when you work with someone that you're more comfortable with, it makes everything go smooth, which is very helpful. With events that I have to shoot water and make that decision in like a beach break or whatever, somewhere that's not that easy. Like I remember Narrabeen a couple of years ago, it was like really big, but like Dunbar went out and shot water. And I'm like, oh, if he can do this, I can do this. So I was like, okay. And I was like almost vomiting, feeling so sick. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm so nervous. So yeah, there's a lot of things that play out in your head. But at the end of the day, what I like to think is we're not saving lives. So hopefully we get there.
That's very true.
Bea had to remind me about that multiple times. She's like, it's okay. We're not saving lives.
Yeah. And we kind of need to enjoy the process as we go because otherwise it's not worth it, right? And you probably work better if you're feeling good and if you feel like relaxed and tuned in and all that. If you're nervous all the time, then you're not like really enjoying it and opening up your mind to be creative and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you got to be like adaptable. That's the one thing that, you know, we can make a plan at the start of the day, but then all things can be off, you know, pretty soon. So it's like you got to be adaptable, and it's a live event. You guys know this. It's like the whole team has to adapt with what's going on. So yeah, I think that's the part where it's just like the unknown. We can't control what we don't know. So it's like you just kind of got to go, okay, like you just react the best that you can. But yeah, I still get nervous for sure because you're just that pressure on yourself. You're like, you know, like it's
and
a self-confidence.
You don't know what's going to happen, right? So it's
and like self-confidence, self-belief. Like I think Bea and I would have we've got belief in ourselves because we wouldn't be where we are without it. But so you know that you can do this and you know that you can do some amazing things and be in the right spot at the right time for someone, you know. But you just hope that everything aligns like that. And generally you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my God, that's cool. We did that, you know. So
yeah, for example, Willow's photo. I mean, that was like such a big one. That was, I mean, from not being on the ground, that like I woke up and whatever the time difference was. And that was like the first thing that I saw. And that was incredible.
Yeah. It was a big wave. I was like, you know, because we're shooting action the whole time, but you know, someone might start talking to you over here and you're like, yep, like your eyes got to stay on the wave. So yeah, there's things that are missed for sure, but that one wasn't, which was good.
Cait, I feel like, okay, I have this memory and it might be totally wrong, And so you can tell me that I'm wrong. But in 2021, when we were at Newcastle and Carissa did that air, I believe it was you who got the shot of her doing the air, right? I was just played through my mind that I feel like I remember talking to you afterwards being like, oh my gosh, I just like saw her stand up and I like turned over real quick and ended up getting the shot. Like it was because you're like running around on the beach. I mean, if you're ever on site, you see both the photographers like running like woo, 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 woo. Yeah. So that, as you were telling that story just then, that memory just popped up in my brain and that you like, it was just like perfect time, perfect place.
Well, again, like it's funny. You can't predict what the surfer's going to do. You can try, you can kind of almost read their body language. If they're going for an air, you know that they're going for an air. But it's like, I couldn't see Carissa. She was behind me. And for some unknown reason, like something was like, stay on it. And then she went boosted. And I was like, what the heck? And I didn't, you know, it was funny. I didn't realize the moment at the time. So that was in the first heat. I was still in the water for another 3. And I didn't realize what was going on on the beach. I didn't realize everyone was going bananas about this wave. I didn't kind of understand the gravity of it. So I kind of came in and then everyone's like, oh, did you get it? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what? Yeah, I think so. And then everyone, like, I felt like everyone was like following me up to the room. And I remember going up to the meeting room and everyone's like huddled around my laptop. I'm like, this is what the hell's going on? And I like got the shot and then it's like, everyone's like, quick, get it out. You know, it's like, it was pretty cool. But that was like my first, like, big, like, that was probably my favorite moment actually. But it was kind of funny how it happened. Because we're not really tapped into the commentary team either. So there's these big moments that happen and we're so concentrated on what's happening like right in front of us. And you don't realize the magnitude of it till a little bit later. So,
yeah, you're not able, you don't have headphones in. You're not listening to like what we're talking about maybe while you're out in the lineup or even like running around and doing all the other things. You're trying
you
to like
wouldn't even know who's advancing always.
Yeah.
You're just like, those are the 2 surfers that were in the heat and next heat and next heat and next heat.
Yeah.
We just follow the broadcast camera.
Jono on the ground is our best friend. We're like, quick, where's Jono running? Like, run after him.
Yeah, we just follow.
We just follow Jono. He's always on it.
It's cool to like thinking just what you were saying a few minutes ago about like the pressure that you feel returning to a location, knowing that like last year at Margaret River, you felt really good about your work and you put out some beautiful shots. So now this year you want to like do the same thing and up.
Or like step it up.
Totally step it up.
Yeah.
I feel the same pressure as a commentator where if I'm going to a brand new location and I've never commentated that spot before and it's a new wave, I kind of feel like I can have not low expectations on myself because I carry very high expectations for what I do. But I know that I'm going in and I'm like the fresh one. And so my take or my explanation of things or whatever is going to be mostly based off of, it's going to be very fresh. And then anything that there is some context to is based off of me watching previous events and listening to other people, but not my own experience. But then when I get to return, which was like me commentating the Olympics this last year, was like at Chopu, right? I've never been to Tahiti. I've still never been to Tahiti because I commentated that event from Paris through the middle of the night, which was really weird. But I was like, okay, I knew there were certain things I was going to do extremely well at because it's just like part of the job. And then there were other things that were going to be like really new because I haven't been on the ground to see how this wave breaks, to see like all the nuances of exactly what a surfer is looking for because I like witnessed it firsthand. But when I get to go back to a wave that I've seen 1,000 times or I've commentated on multiple events for, then I feel like, okay, I've got this. Yeah, last year I was calling it this way. I really need to up what I'm doing. I need to like come in with a little bit of a different flavor or just like make sure that I'm improving on the thing that I did last time. So I find that really cool that you can walk into an event with that same like frame of mind. Also knowing that for both of us in a very like different sense, we're doing this for the sake of an audience. You guys are doing it for viewership that are going to be looking through your photos, whether it's the surfers themselves, whether it's the, broader media or the marketing team or whatever it is, that there's like so many different people that are looking at your photos for specific reasons. And same for us with commentary. It's like, okay, what audience is listening to us? how can we make this the most engaging thing that makes people want to stay a part of it?
Mhm.
Which I think is like such a unique position, specifically with event work. In comparison, I'm curious to know like how you guys would feel about that event work context now in comparison to when you're just shooting for a brand or you're shooting free surfing for a surfer or something like on an off day or something like that.
I think this event specifically, it's all about the emotions. And I guess WSL work is a lot about the emotions. So basically, just like following the journey of each surfer throughout a hate or an event or whatever. And this event is basically like all about the cut. So there's going to be tears, they're going to be super happy they made the cut or whatever. So it's basically just like being there but not really being there, so they're not very noticed, and just like following along and try to get that moment kind of thing.
Yeah, you're trying to be invisible the whole time while also making sure that you're in exactly the right spot.
Yeah.
And
then
you don't actually miss anything.
They often don't like that we're there, to be honest. They don't.
Yeah.
But
they'll
then
go
they
like,
always but they always use their shots. So it's always like, dude, if you just let me be here, I'll get the shot easy and you can post it.
I know, it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they
so hard.
They love, I think the athletes, like, you know, they'll probably get to the end of the event and they're like, oh, where are all the photos? And you're like, well, you were like staunching me the whole time, so I didn't take any. Like, you know, because there's someone that, like, for example, like Gabrielle Bryan, like every time I go and take a photo of her, she looks and she starts smiling and she's like, I just can't not smile. I'm like, keep smiling. Like, it's great. Whereas others do not even acknowledge that you're there. And like, that's fine. We're not there to be acknowledged. But it might help her to smile at us, whereas others it's like full focus on, you know. So it's kind of interesting that each surf is really different.
Absolutely.
Well, going from there, Rach, unless you had something else you wanted to say, I was thinking let's kind of change course from event talk to the history for both of you.
I can actually add something to that.
Yeah, go for it.
I feel like because I got so used to WSL work as in capturing the in-between moments and like the emotion moments, I often like do that in my commercial work where I'm like, I don't like so much the posing and and I think then people like hire me for that, not so much for the fake shot, but then I get the in-between moments, which is kind of like what I trained my brain to do in WSL events. And so my commercial work kind of became like a journalism almost, like
sure
being there.
I love that. I think like also both of you guys both have very specific styles to your photography that, you know, I can look at both your photos and be like, oh, that's taken by Cait or that's taken by B, and that's awesome. And it's really interesting to hear you articulate a bit more of like, oh, this is how I have evolved like my, you know, creative eye throughout the different projects that I've been a part of.
Well, B, let's just start with you. So talking us through, you know, when you maybe first got a camera, when you thought that you wanted to start taking photos in the first place, into being a water photographer and interested in the surfing side of things. Originally from Portugal, you and your partner are now living in Australia. And I know that you kind of came to Australia with that dream of really making a career out of it. So I'd love to hear, you know, point A to point Z, what that process has looked like.
So my dad was kind of a photographer, so he has like I've grown up with his cameras, and we would go on walks and take photos of trees and things, and we would go back to the house and edit them, and we would upload them to this website thing where people leave comments and like feedback. So we would upload them and then we would wait for feedback, and my dad used to say like, come back, let's see what people said. I'm like, sure. So like probably old man being like, oh, great tree photo or whatever.
Nature capture.
Yeah. I'm like, sure, I don't know what that means, but thanks. And so I kind of grew up always with a camera, but I don't think I've really had like a strong connection to it. And then later on, my dad gave me a film camera and I absolutely loved it. I think it was the best gift present that my dad gave me. I mean, that I ever got, really, because it just opened up a whole world. And so I started taking a lot of film photos and I loved it. And then my partner gave me a camera on my 18th birthday, I think, because I used to just use my dad's cameras. And I started shooting. I got my first job as a photographer when I was maybe 18, helping shooting weddings, and I did so many of them, and I hated it. I'm like, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I watched this surf film from like a John View from a Blue Moon,
Yeah.
and also like this film from Morgan Massim, like both at the same time pretty much. And I was just like, whoa, like I want to do this. Like I decided I want to do this. But, from being from Portugal, it's not really normal to go out of your normal path. Like you finish high school, you go to college, you finish college, you start a full-time job, you get married, have a house, kids, whatever. And I honestly looked around me and I was like, I do not want these people's lives. Like I really don't. But at the same time, I didn't want to disappoint my parents. So I studied something that I thought they would be happy with. And when I started, I didn't like it, but I was like, when I start something, I finish. So I finished. And I was like, okay, now I've done my part as a daughter. I'm going to go and follow my dreams. So I just, grabbed my stuff and moved to Australia with the goal of, I bought a housing. I tried one housing once in Portugal. I did like maybe a couple jobs with the housing, but it was not a proper housing. It was like a soft housing for any type of cameras. And I actually loved it. But when I moved to Australia, I was like, my priority will be water photography and then try to make a living out of that. This was 6 years ago. It obviously takes time. There's COVID. There's so many factors. And I got my first WSL event in 2022. And in my first event, in the first day, our boss just said she loved my work and asked what I was going to do the rest of the year. And I'm like, honestly, no plans. He's like, do you want to do the rest of the tour? And I'm like, yeah. So I think from then onwards, just things started to just be really good.
Snowball. So good.
Yeah.
And now you're doing like a combination of some event work through the year, because I know with those photography teams as well with the WSL, there's a decent rotation between, the talent that there is there and trying to make sure that everybody gets equal work. So it's not that either one of you get to shoot all 12 events or however many there are now on the calendar, 15 or 20 coming up next year, I think. So what's your kind of life looking like at this stage? A little bit of event work, and then you've got, are you full-time with, I want to say McTavish, but I could be completely wrong. Okay.
So 2022 was pretty much only WSL, but it was kind of a novelty year, I feel like, because there was not a lot of people able to travel and stuff. So I'm super grateful for that. And I was also very free. Like I had no commitments. So I was just like, 3 months in the US, whatever, let's make the most out of it. And then 2023 was a bit slower. And then onwards, it was like, maybe now we do maybe 4 maximum events a year. So that's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Last year, I started doing full-time for McTavish. You're right. And then I did the Olympics as well. So I couldn't travel a whole lot because I was kind of like connected to that.
Yeah.
And this year I started part-time. And since I made that decision, it was the best decision of my life because it's going really well.
That's amazing.
I don't know what the future will hold, but I'm like all for it.
I think that's like really, and Cait, I think as we turn to you as well, I think there's a lot of similar themes in your story as well. But and Shannon, for you too, like in commentary, all of this work being freelance, a lot of the opportunities come from kind of like just putting faith into all right, I'm actually not going to make a plan and I'm going to keep putting myself out there. And then hopefully, finally, like it doesn't happen right away, but hopefully, you get that nod or that opportunity. And then you have like the freedom and the ability to say yes to it. And then that has that snowball effect. But it's scary in that time too, because you're sitting there, you're putting in the work, you're putting in the time and effort, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get that nod. You just keep showing up for yourself and working towards that goal, and hoping you get the event work, So it's just, how do you be, from your perspective, like when you're in that time moving to Australia and working and kind of like, not having a year plan, was that something that like you held stress about at the time, or you had given yourself like this window of, hey, I'm just going to go for it and, see what happens?
At the time, like I lived 6 months in Sydney. I kind of hated, so I kind of but I made good connections there, I guess, within a couple brands. And when I moved up here, I started working like in the shop, like in a surf shop. Like I've always worked in surf shops, so that was always like a stable thing, I guess. And then I just lived in front of the pass in my little caravan for 2 years.
I forgot about that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I would just be out there shooting surf like day and night, whatever. I wouldn't care. It's like I'm not paying a huge rent or anything like that. So I'm just gonna like work as much as I can for myself, not really for other brands. Just like work hard, because I know when you work hard, like things start coming. And that was basically it. Like for a year or two, I was just like shooting day and night. Like it was a walking distance, so I had no excuse really.
Yeah.
And yeah, things just like started rolling. And yeah, you just can't put too much pressure on yourself, but you just have to make sure you work hard towards your goals. Because once you do that, things will come always, like for sure.
Yeah,
Cait,
absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, I feel like, Cait, your stories, it's going to have some different angles to it, but for sure it's got a lot of those similarities within it. You're
100%.
from Australia, you've stayed living in Australia, and you're kind of in this space where even like hearing B's story of coming from Portugal to here to Oz is like looking for a lot of opportunity. And as a woman, for you growing up here and having surfing as like the national sport basically, and it's just like everyone and their mother surfs here because everyone lives on the coastlines because it's too hot to live anywhere else. And it's just like part of the life here. What has it been like for you? Because I know the journey hasn't been the easiest also. Living in a place where there is so much opportunity in comparison to a lot of other countries, but still having to carve out a place for yourself as a photographer, as a woman in the surfing industry.
I just want to say I love hearing B's story because I hadn't heard it properly like that. And it's so it's so inspiring. Like I get so inspired by, I don't know, other women doing things. So love it. But yes, my story is similar but a little bit different. I grew up in Victoria on the Mornington Peninsula and grew up loving surfing. My dad surfed, and we'd always go to Byron Bay actually for our holidays. So I've been going to Byron since I was like 6-7 years old, just caravanning up for 2 weeks, coming back. So I fell in love with up there, and like in my little head I was like, oh, is that my happy place? But I did school and stuff down here, and then I actually did a year of sports science and sports management after after high school, because I was like, oh, I want to get into the surf world, but I want to be like the physio or something. And I just was like, I did like about 6 months of that, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, and it's quite interesting. I did art in year 12, like as a subject, and my folio, like I bring it out every now and again, but it's so funny because it's all photos of like Steph Gilmore, Roxy campaigns, Rip Curl campaigns. It's like I can look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I like literally manifested what I'm doing now. So yeah, it was very much like on the cards, and I was obsessed with all of that marketing, and I just wanted to go and surf in a bikini somewhere. So, but obviously Victoria's quite cold, and when I switched to a photography degree in RMIT, which is in Melbourne. So I did 3 years of that, and I had like everyone around me was like, "What are you doing? Like, you can't like." There's no work in that. Like photographer, what? I was like, trust me, like I've got a plan. And I bought a housing and kind of started shooting some women down here, which wasn't many. There wasn't much of a women's surf community down here at all, really. Well, I was young, so there might have been with older people, but not really with the youngins. And then, I don't know. Like, it's funny, Instagram I rode the early wave of Instagram. So I like started an account in like 2014, whenever Instagram started. And I know I was just shooting what I loved and expressing myself, and like it was resonating with people. And I'd go up to Byron and do shoots with like Spell, when Spell was still like a market stall. There are no stores or anything. And just like, so you look at all these brands now and it's like everyone was growing with each other. It was like this whole thing of like, it was weird. But anyway, it was so epic. And then, yeah, I went to Bali for a year in like 2015. And then I got, through some connections, got like a Roxy kind of job. Like the Roxy team were traveling to Bali, and, you know, so I was just like, this is insane. Like I was 22 and living my absolute dreams. Like it was crazy. But yeah, it's been a pretty epic little ride, and just not really realize, like you kind of look back and you're like, how did all of that happen? But I think like I've always been someone that didn't want to do a normal 9 to 5, or like I knew that. It was like kind of instilled in me. Like I was like, everyone around me just shush, trust me, just I'm gonna do this. And yeah, it's been fun.
Cait, I think something that stands out to me about your career as well is all the different, I don't know if reinvention is the right word, but all the different avenues that you've continued to pursue and create over the years. And I know, like, for me, talking with you over the years in our friendship, that those are conversations that we have had. And like when I was still working at WSL and I had just had the first conversation with Shannon of being like, I think I'm going to resign. And you and I were on the road. And I was like, Cait, I'm thinking I'm going to resign from WSL and go down this path. Like, what are your thoughts on, I don't know, like making it back in kind of the freelance world of just working? Obviously mine would be from like the surfing perspective, but you have always been so business oriented within your career as well. And I remember those were the years that you were running, was it called The Click?
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear you elaborate a bit more on that, because that was incredible. And now you're working a lot with Andy and doing these like really amazing women surf trips all throughout the Maldives. And yeah, I would love to just hear you elaborate, because obviously we have talked about your event work, but those are so many other things that aren't just like getting hired by brands, but things that you've gone out and created for yourself and your own brand and working for yourself, essentially. Yeah, I'd love you to just elaborate more on that.
Yeah. It's funny because I've always been like, I think I've got a pretty entrepreneurial mind. And like the Click came from a place of like, I want to become more than just a photographer. Like I feel like I'm not just someone that takes photos. Like I want to, like my main thing is like inspiring women, whatever, like that's like it, you know, in whatever it can be. And so I saw that the way that I went about my career is I had a lot of people going, oh, you can't do that, or, you know, you got to do it like this. Uni was like very, this is right and this is wrong. And I was like, what do you mean? Like it's photos. And I just was like, screw this, I'm going to do it my way. And it worked. So I think the Click was about trying to instill confidence in women to trust their intuition and go, you know what, I'm going to do this. And not just photography, like whatever it is that they want to do. So the Click was great because I, you know, created this online community of female photographers. And it was funny because the essence of it was inspiring them. And it kind of became something where I was like teaching actual photography. And I was like, I actually didn't like that so much because I just use photography as a medium to like inspire and express myself. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy like the actual physical part of like teaching, like, yeah. So that was was that aspect. And then, I've always, I don't know, thought just different things. It's all about checking in with yourself and making sure that you're enjoying what you're doing. And, you know, as you get older, you're like, okay, I probably can't like travel the world for like $1 million lives. I don't know. Or you can, I guess, like I'm feeling a little more like I love, you know, what I'm doing with WSL, but I am feeling a bit more grounded and, you know, wanting to settle a little bit more and whatever that means. But yeah, but also inspire, because I also want to like, well, my next project is to create a documentary shooting women's portraits without makeup on and talking about what that means to them and trying to inspire people that way. So I say one thing and I do the other, but
yeah.
Yeah, that will probably be more travel than everything. But yeah, I guess it's like I like the idea of multifaceted, like not boxing yourself in, because women's surfing will always be like that, will always be here, and it will always drive me, and I think I'm always going to be in that world. But you know, there's also other things out there to explore, and as you evolve as a woman and grow older, then you know there's all sorts of things you can do. So yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that idea. I know that you've had a couple opportunities to like speak about your passion behind women's and image portrayal and a few different things. Like I know at Seize the Day, was it last year at Seize the Day that you were able to have that conversation, and the response back from the female surfing community was just amazing. So has that given you some of that kind of encouragement and inspiration to be like, all right, now let's turn this into like an actual big project that seems like it, I mean, it could be global on a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I think like it's funny because I look back and I'm like, I've always been, the whole thing was like shooting femininity and elegance in the water and natural moments, like always natural moments. Like I still find it difficult when I'm trying to shoot something too super constructed. Like I just fell into fashion, but I never wanted to do fashion. Like fashion comes hand in hand with surfing, so you got to shoot models on the beach, but then there's always been something in me that's like, God, this feels like kind of wrong in a way, because I'm portraying like, look, I don't know if it's complicated, but
well, shoots can be so much smoke and mirrors, right? Like you from a photo, or like, oh, that's what the session, like this is what the session actually looked like. I'm not sure. Have either of you guys watched the new Roxy like episodes that they put out to their trip to the Maldives?
No,
you've seen. I think they've just put out episodes 1 and 2, but I just watched those yesterday, and it is such a good watch so far. But basically, like, it's them, you know, in the middle of a storm, like they're out in the surf. It's super crowded, and all of them are kind of like, this is not that fun. Like, go to the Maldives with Roxy, they say. Like, be on a boat with the girls, they say. Like, some of the girls are throwing up over seasickness. Like, they're just getting rained on. It's cold. But you look at the campaign shots that have now come out of that they're starting to run, and it looks like the most beautiful, epic, dreamy. They were in the Maldives, like, time ever. And so it's been really nice to see that other side of it portrayed, like that they're, the reality, because so much of shoots is smoke and mirrors, or like, hey, let's just, if we angle it this way away from that big storm over there, or we use this lighting or whatever, we're able to get the deliverable that the brand needs or whatever. But it can paint a different picture as well, as you said.
Yeah, it's like, I think, you know, I grew up idolizing all of the marketing, you know, that comes out of the brands. But to be honest, it is pretty one-dimensional. You've got women looking pretty similar to each other. Yeah, I used to compare. I as a teenager, I'd be like, oh, I don't look like that, so I'm not beautiful, or I'm not this. And it's like, God, like if I can try and help change that in other young women, that, you know, just don't worry about that, focus on here. Then, but it's hard. I mean, like surfing's difficult because it's like you're trying to sell a lifestyle, which is beautiful beaches and freckly, beautiful skin and all this kind of stuff. So there's like, I'm all about showing the honesty and the realness of things. And it's like a double-edged sword. You've got to play the you know, it's a brand. There's campaign stuff, but that's why I, like, to be honest, love shooting the events, because it's real. It's like photojournalism. It's actually like, this is happening. You can't construct, you can't be like, Hey,
Smile for me.
Yeah, Gabrielle
Yeah.
Medina, could you mind just turning a little bit this way? Like, you're not constructing.
Could you make
it's like
that tear
real.
a little bit bigger?
Yeah. And I've always been gravitated towards real moments. So as long as I'm
Capture
still
the real.
as long as I'm capturing realness in whatever it is, then I think I'm aligned with my values, I guess.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's a good transition into, kind of the next thing. One of the last things that I wanted to discuss with the two of you is just the idea around, there's so much more opportunity now for women in sports specifically. The two of you getting to work together at Margaret River, Rachel and I getting to commentate together. There's so many more females in the space of kind of control and creativity, which is a really awesome thing. But there still are massive limitations for women within sport. And I think as much as things are changing, it's not changing maybe as quickly as what we might think that they are. And that even makes me think of like this smoke and mirrors idea of like photo shoots where an image is being put out potentially by the brand, in our case, maybe by some of the companies that we work for, that there's this massive movement forward for women and they're investing all these things. But then what's actually happening behind the scenes and the conversations that we're getting to have together behind the scenes with so many different girls that are on the ground is actually still how challenging it is, or how we're being compared against the men, or how, well, for a girl, you're doing pretty good. I know for Rachel and I, we had, one example that we have mentioned before on the podcast was just 2 years ago. It was 2023. I think it was about this time of the year. It was the first time Rach had been hired on as a commentator. She's a world champion. She comes in with more authority than most would come into a commentary booth with because she has a world title. And the two of us were paired together on maybe the third day of the event or something. It wasn't even like from day one. Our male coworker was like, you guys need to pair together today. So I'm going to like create this in the schedule because we kind of schedule ourselves. So it wasn't even the two of us like pushing for anything. And we get into the booth and we get disrupted by our head producer saying basically that two women cannot commentate together on sport. It is highly unprofessional. How dare we put ourselves together and manipulate the day to commentate together? And we were just like, I put up a massive fight that day. There's a lot that has gone down since then with that organization, with that producer, with how things look. It's very different now to what it did 2 years ago.
And we have since commentated multiple times together.
Which
thereafter.
is awesome.
But it did require us put up a fight. Shannon more so.
Fight.
I was cowering behind her.
Well, it was also crazy for Rachel because it was like her first time too doing this. So then she's also like, wait a second, what? Like I'm like causing controversy. And I was like, yes, you are. And we are going to just roll straight into this. But it was like, Shannon. It was just this really wild thing. I haven't actually thought about it in a while, but knowing that the two of you were coming on and kind of that dynamic of your first event shoot together, thinking through like in that scenario, actually on that team, I was the most qualified commentator as like a play-by-play host in the space of the team of men that we had. Rachel was the most qualified as an analyst because she's a world champion. Even though she was new to being in the booth, she carried so much authority because of the world title that she had at that time. It's now been backed up with 2 more, which is insane. But it was simply because we are women and we have maybe a more high-pitched voice and we get a little excited about different things when we're commentating, that suddenly that meant that in someone's view, it was unprofessional for us to work together, which is really insane.
Or gave them pause to the validity of the statements. Yeah.
Which is such a shame that that's still what we're up against. And while things are changing, it's not changing that fast. And there's a lot of publicity that's being put out that's like, women in the surfing industry are kind of finding their time and their place, which is true in some aspects, but not in others. I'd be curious to hear from the two of you how you've kind of felt within that space now. I know, Cait, for you were like the only woman on the team for a long time, which Rachel and I actually both have sat in that boat as well. To now be able to come together and work together. But what is it sort of also looking like behind the scenes for that fight to just continue encouraging other women to join into the ranks, as well as noting like, you know, the level of skill that it takes, the level of experience that it takes to actually work at these levels.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like with Margs, like I was saying, well, we had a massive girl group, like huge.
And actually, the surfers noticed because I've heard from like someone
That's
like,
awesome.
"Wow, there's a massive like." So many girls.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like
I
girls
remember,
on staff, right?
Yeah, girls on staff, like especially photography.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because like I was probably like, oh, back in my day, like it was just me and the boys, and, you know, and
that's me to Rachel.
Like and it was cool. Like it was really special, and it was cool that people were, you know, noticing. And but yeah, I think like, to be honest, the WSL has been nothing but like incredible to us and just supported what we've wanted. And, you know, having two of us on, I didn't even really think too much of it beforehand. I was like, it'll happen at some point, you know. It wasn't like, oh, we need to be, you know, together. I was like, it'll just happen. And yeah, there's like so many talented photographers in our team, and you know, to be honest, like the men in our team are like nothing but like amazing.
Like I've never felt so supported in a team. Like we have so much support and like trust.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like since day one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Our producer that's currently off mic being one of them. Erin
exactly.
Good job,
honey. It's kind of funny. Like I think like my experience before, well, I've just had funny experiences. Like I feel like at WSL events earlier on, I'd be walking around with my like colorful bucket hat and like my overalls and my cute little camera strap, and like you can feel the like 10 guys, big burly men standing there with their 600 lenses just going, who the hell is this? Like,
and they're all dressed in black. They're like looking,
like how does she get this job? And it's like, I don't know, you just got to run with it. But things are changing, but you're right, there's definitely much more to go. But I think that, it's been nice to see that change and be a part of it. Like so grateful that, you know, we're both a part of it, and we're going to have some fun stories for people one day. In 20 years time, we can be like, we were the first ones together. So that's, I don't know, that's cool.
That's huge.
Yeah. I know B wants to talk about that as well. Or
yeah, I feel like I've maybe have had one experience where I was like, are you doing this because I'm a girl? So and I was really like, it was very like, it made me think a lot about, because I don't think about that a lot. I don't know, like I kind of grew up with like boys and guys as my best friends and all that, so I never really had a strong women support in my life, like a strong group of friends or whatever. Like I grew up with boys kind of thing, so I never have that in the back of my head, and I kind of forget that I'm a girl sometimes. And so I kind of like, when that happened last year, I was like, oh wow, it just made me think a lot about all that, and made me realize how much support WSL has always given to me, like trust, mainly trust. It's like I could either like, I don't know, like I don't have as much experience or whatever, and I've always had the trust there, and it has always been amazing. But in a general way, I can't say that I've had really bad experiences throughout my life, because I don't know,
I think both you guys, hearing from your stories, both you guys also had a really strong direction that this is a career that you wanted to embark on. And both you guys being just naturally really confident people, and just having that clarity into that direction. I mean, Cait, you talking about even being in uni and people being like, do you understand what you're doing? And you're like, yes, I see the vision. And same for you, be like going, okay, I did the uni in Portugal, I'm moving to Australia, and this is what I'm pursuing now. This is my passion. Like both you guys have really strong confidence into that and courage. So it strikes me, and like, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it strikes me that that's not something you ever really gave pause to consider, that the fact that you were a female walking into this industry, or let that be a hindrance rather more so than like a positive thing because of the vision and because of the angles that you're able to see with the women that you're working with. I feel like I've seen both you guys turn that into major positives in your career.
Oh, I think like, sorry, you go.
Sorry, you go.
You go.
Two things. Like, one, I feel like maybe men and women are stronger if they work together. Like, because
For sure.
we do. I feel that with Aaron, for example, or with Dunbar, whatever. Because I get the hype for like I can do what they're doing, but it happens the other way around too. Like, I feel like they also feel like, oh, she's like doing this way. Maybe I can do that way, or try to do it that way. Because we do think differently, like no doubt.
Yeah.
Like men and women think differently, and they capture things differently.
Especially in such an artistic medium too, in which you guys do.
But like, I feel like we capture things in a more like maybe sensitive way that usually it's not captured like that in sports, and then men kind of like go through the safe path kind of thing. It's I feel like it's a good mix when there's a team of a guy and a girl in a way, because you kind of like push different levels of each other. And the other thing I was going to say, I might have forgotten. Oh no, I remember. So this year I had a job where I had to like, the job was to take a barrel shot in the water in Iluka in like a really big day. And I'm like, why are they hiring me for this? Like, but okay, I'll do it. So I show up and I'm like, I'm tiny. Like, I'm really tiny. And the guys are like, what? You're going to be the one that takes the photo. I'm like, hi, I'm B. I'm the photographer. And I'm like, honestly, I looked at myself like that moment. I'm like, yeah, I can imagine in their heads, like they're thinking like, how is this tiny little nugget gonna be the person chosen to do this shoot? And I'm like feeling so nervous because I really wanted to deliver to prove them wrong. Because basically my life was always trying to prove people wrong. Because when I decided I wanted to become a photographer, everyone was like, oh, sure, whatever. And so I kind of like all my life was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, and that was my drive. And so I really wanted to prove them wrong that I was capable to do this. But it was actually really hard. So I tried. The current was gnarly. Like the waves were really hard to like line up. And I got out and I'm like, I don't think I'll be able to do this. And the client was like, I know you can. Just go back out. And I'm like, seriously? You're asking me to go back out? He's like, yeah, I know you can do it. And I'm like, oh shit. Here I go. So here I go again. Like, I swear I still have sand on up my nose from that shoot. But I eventually, like, I kind of got the shot. And it was funny because the guys were like, kind of like, gained respect. He was like, oh, she was out there. She tried. Like, she did a good job. Yeah. It was interesting to see how they were before the shoot and how they acted after the shoot kind of thing. Yeah. Like, it kind of like got their respect, which is something that it's silly to think even this way, but it actually like it felt that way and it felt good in a way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say before I remember when I first got this Roxy job, and you know, I'm shooting like Caroline Marks when she's like 14 or 13 years old, and like, I mean, I don't know, I guess I got hired for multiple reasons, but the fact that I was like a young girl hanging out with other young girls in this industry and then just taking photos, it meant that they felt super comfortable. And then you get all this other amazing stuff just because they're comfortable with you. And I think like, I remember the first WSL event that I did, and like my boss at the time was like, whoa, you're getting all these smiles from them. I'm like, yeah, like we should, because I don't know, maybe they're like, oh, a female, like there's a comfort level there, you know? And it's just like, I think that's, you know, really important. We've got a tour that's got men and women on it. And it'd be interesting to, you know, it'd be interesting to see, like get a have an interview with some of the athletes, male and female, about what
they prefer.
Or I mean, they probably couldn't give a crap either. But it would be interesting if the men feel any different when we're photographing as opposed to men. I don't know.
I've heard from like athlete in the campaign level. Like I hear so many times girls like saying like, "This is so much better having a girl shooting it."
Yeah,
and I actually think it should be mandatory.
Yeah,
like that's
right?
my experience.
Hell yeah,
why would a 40-year-old guy be shooting like a 14-year-old girl in a bikini? Like, she will never be comfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
just
think
my
that's
thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely, and just seeing that as like such a strength and finding that niche too, and being able to run with it and sell it and build upon it, as both you guys have, is just like really great to see and be like. I love that story of you talking about going out on that shoot and fighting the current and stuff, and I know you're so humble in the way that you're like, and like, I got it. Like, I was happy with it. And I know all of us would look at the shot and be like, these are incredible.
You wouldn't. No, you're really hard.
But, I think it's so interesting hearing both your guys' perspectives as a fan that Shan and I are friends of you guys, but a fan of you guys so much as well. And growing up over the years and seeing both your guys' content, your shots, and like getting the privilege to shoot with both you guys too is, you don't get to hear the inner workings of your brains, all that often. And I know for us on this podcast, we try to cater into the industry. Like, yes, we talk a lot about surfing from like a competition perspective, but we've talked into broadcasting, we've talked into journalism, and getting to hear from the photography perspective. There's so many ways to be a part of this industry without being a professional surfer is a lot of the conversation that we like to have. And it's so easy to look at you two, both you guys, and think like, oh my gosh, but they are Cait and B. And so they have like eternal confidence because they are so talented and they know they'll always get the shot. Like, that's what I always think.
Nope.
And so it's just really inspiring. Yeah, it's really inspiring to hear.
We're a bit loopy over here.
Your guys, just the inner workings. Of course, you guys are human too, but and how you have navigated your careers and managed that, and how you even still navigate nerves now.
And I feel personally, I feel like it's super cool because me and Cait are so different. Like our work is so different. Like the way we think is so different and all that. And somehow it just worked out so well. And like,
well, yin and yang.
Yeah, completely. And it's so interesting. Like I wear black. I'm one of the old school dudes, like wearing black at the beach, like no color whatsoever.
Every color.
Yeah.
Every color under the sun, Yeah, we're like full yin and yang. And yeah, it's funny. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, when if anyone that's listening wants to, chase after your dreams, like I didn't know any pro surfers or anything growing up. That wasn't my world, and here we are.
I didn't even surf.
Yeah,
like I didn't grow up close to the water. Yeah. None of my family surfs. Yeah. Like, I didn't pick up the board until I was 20-ish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like you can just do it. You just got to follow your gut. That's my biggest advice. Follow your own intuition. Yeah. And be disciplined in what you want to do, and work hard, and be a good person. Be yourself, and be human. And it'll all snowball.
I love that. That's great advice.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like that's a really good place for us to end our conversation, though we could have so many other things to talk about. But that was beautifully said, Cait. And I'm just so thankful for the two of you taking your time. Yeah, like Rachel said, like, for us to have a little more insight to your brains. I mean, I have a little bit of that in the photography side because Aaron also doubts his work and he questions if it's good. And there's so many different things. And I'm like, what are you thinking? How are you questioning anything?
Yeah.
But I'm also not a person, like, that's not my field of expertise or anything like that, you know? So it's really cool to hear from you guys as well. Those, like you said, be that human aspect, that like kind of having to, pick yourself up, keep yourself going, knowing that sometimes you're going to deliver great things. Sometimes you might not be that happy with what you deliver. I think that's the case for all of us in our endeavors and what we're pursuing. But also what you guys are doing is absolutely incredible. And you're definitely inspiring a next generation of photographers, boys and girls growing up around the world. And I think it's the coolest thing when we get to see, a photo go up and it's not just credited to WSL because it was a WSL photographer. It's like personally credited to the person that took the photo. It's personally credited to one of you on, in so many different aspects, whether it's event photography or it's campaign photography or these fun other projects that you guys are doing. And it's definitely in social media world and in Instagram world to be able to have your images popping up and kind of like flavoring our Instagrams and those kind of things is a really nice, it's just such a nice thing to be like, oh, that's so pretty. Oh, look at the sparkles in the water. Like, look at this. This is the way that I view photography. I'm like, that's beautiful. Wow. That makes me happy. I don't know. I think that was a really cool conversation. And there's a lot of similarities, I think, with what Rachel and I have been through within our careers. And then there's a lot of differences. And I think also one thing that really kind of stands out to me, and I've thought a lot about this over the last few years as well, is how much the dynamic can change for employees in a space based off of who their, I'm going to say superiors, but that's maybe the wrong word, who their boss is or whatever, like in a space. And I feel like for you guys in your photography department, you have a really incredible management team above you that has allowed it to be a really welcoming, loving, supportive environment amongst each other. And that's sort of the opposite of what I have experienced in the departments that I've worked for. And it gives me so much hope for our surfing community and for our industry to know that there are teams like yours that exist, because I think that's a really beautiful thing and more teams should function that way. And so, I'm just going to end off with that. But I think that the two of you being part of that is absolutely key to continuing on that sort of legacy that you guys have, as well as the rest of the photographers that you get to work with. And that comes across also in the work and the joy that you guys are spreading through your photography.
Thank you for having us.
So thanks for coming on today.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
So good. Do you guys have any waves at home or anything right now?
I think so.
Are you surfing? Are you
I'm
resting? Are you smashed? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I need some chill time, but I think there's waves. It's cold.
There's waves up here too.
Yeah, true.
Well, for our audience that's listening in, we will put in our show notes tags to each of your Instagrams and some projects you guys have worked on. And thanks again for coming on. And we can't wait to see what more joy of photography sparkles into our feeds.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Oh, we said that at the same time.
We're twins.
It's a married couple.
Wow. Well, that was such a great conversation. I just love the two of them so much. And it was a really fun chat, especially amongst like friends, because we've known each other for a while and it just felt so comfortable going into things. Rachel, I don't know how you felt, but I just felt like that was a really good, a really good chat, and especially about something slightly different than what we would typically talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, and I loved the point outs to, neither of them have necessarily sat in the conversations to hear the other's career, prior to, B explained hers, and Cait was like, wow, that was actually really great to like hear you say that. Obviously they work together in a professional setting, but they're busy working. They're not spending a whole lot of time of like, so how did you get here? So it was fun to hear the bounce off between them two in that. And I'm just so grateful to have voices like them off the back of such successful careers too, and what they pour into the industry and into young girls and the inspirations they continue serving to be.
Yeah, be sure to give them both a follow on social media if you aren't already. Cait Miers and B Ryder, will tag all of that in the footnotes of this episode as well. And just follow along with things they're doing, because they're doing obviously event photography, which we spent a decent amount of time talking about, but they're also really covering a lot that's happening within the surfing industry with different brands. Cait, with the trips that she's going on now, and the women's trips that she's kind of leading on that side of things, are really awesome. There's just a lot that's going down behind the scenes for the two of them that is completely outside of this competitive WSL surfing world. And I love that they've been able to make a career out of kind of juggling a lot of different aspects within their photography.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you both to Bea and Cait for joining. And to the listeners, I hope you enjoyed what we feel like was a really special episode.
See you next time.
Bye.